Gender discrimination is still a debatable issue in our society. As ancient society developed into modern society over time, specific actions and events transpired that came to balance the importance of each gender. Throughout the past, several cultures concretely fixed into permanent ideas the segregation and significance of gender roles. Almost a far cry of today's issue about gender discrimination, past societies in a variety of countries standardized a preference towards men and focused on their adaptive ability as an important tool of success. Therefore, women were directly viewed as being inappropriate candidates for taking seats of power in influential circles. In ancient Egypt, Hatshepsut was the very first female pharaoh that we currently know of. She was the fifth pharaoh in the 18th dynasty. She came to power when her husband died without an heir apparent to the throne. After a number of years passed, she demanded that her father name her pharaoh before she summarily assumed the position. We can see how society viewed her by the many sculptures preserved of her. One of the most famous was Hatshepsut's portrait. In this sculpture, she is kneeling to the sun god Ra and holding an offering jar in each hand, wearing a royal male nymph's headdress, and lastly, the pharaoh's ceremonial beard. Unfortunately, many sculptures and busts of Hatshepsut were destroyed by the next pharaoh to succeed her. This, in a way, shows us that society at the time had a difficult time accepting a female ruler as pharaoh, which makes it surprising that a woman had become pharaoh to begin with. When it comes to gender equity in society, ancient Egypt was certainly an interesting era. Another very iconic piece of art from ancient Egypt is the Nefertiti bust, a painted limestone sculpture. The name Nefertiti means the beautiful one has come. Nefertiti's bust features a very long, slendered neck with perfectly shaped lips and nose, enhanced by her proportionately sized and spaced eyes, a symbol and icon of feminine beauty. Nefertiti was the wife of Akhenaten, known for her beauty and versatility. This shows us a standard of beauty that women at the time looked to emulate and strive for. Unlike men, women were always clothed in archaic Greek statues. The Peplos Kor statue, for instance, is of a woman wearing 4 garments. Each of the garments differ from the rest, and one of them is in a style only a goddess would be shown wearing. The figure of Peplos Kor is missing a left hand. This is a special attribute that would be seen in most statues featuring a goddess. Another popular statue of a potential goddess was the Lady of Auxerre. Some have debated her status, as she is clothed in both the typical garments of women and goddesses of this period. Some say she's just a representation of a deceased woman, rather than a goddess. In Etruscan art, women were independent, had freedom, and were featured more prominently. This showed that society accepted women as equal. It was the opposite of how women were seen in Greco-Roman cultures. In Greek cultures, women would stay at home and weren't involved in public life. The highlight of Etruscan art was to show the higher status of women. Etruscan women would attend sporting events with men. They also attended banquets and laid next to their husbands, as seen in such examples as the sarcophagus of the reclining couple. They were able to keep their own names and could independently own property from their husbands. They were also found to be buried with mirrors and other items attesting to a high degree of literacy. Etruscan marital sarcophagi were made from the ashes of either the wife, husband, or both. This statue of the Capitoline wolf is one of the more memorable sculptures of an animal in art history. According to legend, the wolf nursed the infants Romulus and Remus after they were cast in the Tiber River by their grandfather Amulius. After the twins grew into adults, Romulus killed his brother and became the king of Rome, which he founded. The Capitoline wolf has since become the government's symbol and has remained the emblem of Rome to the present day. The wolf is a product of Etruscan art, and it was thought that the infants were later added. The sculptor characterized the she-wolf physically and psychologically. She is in a protective stance, shown by her tense body, powerful legs, glaring eyes, and alert stance. While the statue is an animal, it represents a maternal woman. To have a maternal figure as a government symbol was a blessing, showing how important women were. Empress Zoe Porphyrogenita daughter of Constantine VIII, may have been the most influential Byzantine female figure in history. She was born in a wealthy family and is described as being born to the purple, a symbol of royalty. Unlike other women in her time, she was not permitted to marry until her father's death, and she remained childless throughout her life, despite being remarried several times. In the mosaic portrait of Zoe and her last husband, the emperor holds a purse indicating generous contributions of her assets to the church. The inscription next to the portrait explained her continuous contribution as pious emperor and king of the Romans. Moreover, Zoe also requested the imperial artist update the mosaic with new portraits upon each of her subsequent marriages. Emperor Zoe, one of the few Byzantine women who held influence and high authority, was acclaimed for her position as well as her contribution. According to the Bible, the Virgin Mary is the mother of Jesus. This statue shows the importance of a woman's role as a mother in giving birth to and raising Jesus, who is claimed as God's son. She conceived the Christ child while virgin by a blessing of the Holy Spirit. It is a prime example of a task only a woman could bear. This object is a wooden statuette, and Jesus is in the Virgin Mary's lap. Christ holds a Bible in his left hand and raises his right arm in benediction. There were many depictions of the Virgin Mary created over the centuries, all portraying her in reverence, placing her in a position of honor and grace.